Today is April 16th and joined by the rest of council. Meeting's called to order. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Travis.
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda. And I would ask if you would, afterwards, there's a book in the back to put your name and address if you do come up and speak. Thank you.
Tom Walsh, 318 West Minor Street, Westchester, Board of Historical Review. I'd just like to take a quick moment and give out some special thanks to Mayor DeBaptiste for the wonderful birthday bash that we had recently. And in addition to that, I thank her for the key to Westchester and the certificate and so on. Along with thanks to the mayor, I would like to include Sandy Riper, John O'Brien of the downtown Westchester, Katie Walker of the Greater Westchester Chamber of Commerce, and Connor Hepp of the Chester County History Center for making it a very wonderful evening. Things are not done. We have more events coming up. Thursday, May 30th, we have a Memorial Day celebration on the original Memorial Day down the street at Chestnut Grove. On June 6th, we have the town tour kickoff at the Chester County History Center. The borough, of course, celebrates the kickoff every year, and this will be the 225th anniversary of the borough, so it'll be a special kickoff event. And looking ahead, July 26th, 2025, that'll be Lafayette Day in Westchester. It's a Saturday in July. So just want you to remember there are things coming up, and don't forget America's 250th. Oh, the parade. Yes. Yeah, we're arranging some cars to be in that. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to take about 4 minutes of your time. I don't want to take too much time, but thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Derek Slifer, and I'm the operations manager for the Westchester Railroad and 4 States Railway Service. We currently lease the Westchester line between Glen Mills and Westchester from SEPTA through a sublease with the borough. During the last council work session on March 19th, a discussion took place regarding a 1-year lease extension. It was suggested by a public comment from a member of the Rail Restoration Committee that a full inspection be performed on our railroad by a third-party contractor at our cost because of safety concerns. Without deliberation with us, the tenant and host railroad, council voted for this stipulation for a 1-year lease renewal on March 20th. We received written notice of this on April 2nd. This vote was held without merit. Let me be extremely clear in saying that safety is our #1 priority when operating our trains. We follow strict federal guidelines when it comes to our training, equipment, track structure, bridges, and road crossings. We are a maintenance and operations company with management that collectively has over 150 years of professional experience in this industry. We are volunteers, but by no means are we amateurs. We've hosted over 250,000 passengers on our line since 1997. These passengers have come to the borough and patronized businesses in this community. In the last 6 years, we've invested almost $1 million in our track facilities and equipment. We've operated this line without any safety concerns for the last 27 years. We have a strong relationship with SEPTA, and we've had their support on every inspection and project that we complete. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with Mr. Metrick and brought these concerns to light. We told him that this third-party inspection is completely unnecessary, unwarranted, and unfunded. We are already inspected by the Federal Railroad Administration, the PUC, and SEPTA on a fairly regular basis. In fact, SEPTA was on our right-of-way just this past weekend doing a routine inspection on crossings. We provided example documentation of this to Mr. Metrick. We expressed that we are disappointed that actions on our sublease were being made without consultation with us. We are disappointed that the request for a long-term 15-year lease has been on hold for nearly 2 years. We are disappointed to hear that the Rail Restoration Committee, a group who we have frequently not seen eye to eye with and has a vested interest in obtaining their own lease, has our sublease in their hands. It's a conflict of interest, and we are eager to meet with council as soon as possible on this matter. We respectfully ask that our sublease draft be returned to the borough manager and solicitor for further work, as was originally voted by council in January 2023. The changes we requested in this new lease are very minimal, and it is not a heavy lift. In closing, we ask you, please push this 15-year lease through. SEPTA is ready. We're ready. This year-to-year optional term is not working for us. We made it clear 2 years ago that we did not want to be in this optional term. Next month, we are investing $181,000 with the help of an MTF grant to redeck 2 railroad bridges. As always, all maintenance is done at no expense to the borough or SEPTA. We have plans for 2025 and beyond, but have reservations if this sublease continues to be held up. This process is putting an unneeded stress on a local business and popular tourist destination. We thank you for your support over the years. We hope that you will work to resolve this so we can continue to offer this service to the community. We look forward to participating in the borough's 225th anniversary parade this weekend by offering train rides before and after the parade. We thank you very much for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you.
All right.
Any additional public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, board, committee, and commission interviews. First one for sustainability, Denise Polk and Sarah Rogers. Come on forward, please. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Rogers. Nice to meet everyone. Would you like me to just tell you why I'm interested in?
Yes,
joining the
please.
Committee? Okay. Yeah, I attended the February meeting for the Sustainability Committee, and I'm a longtime sustainability and outdoor supporter. I'm part of I've been part of numerous environmental clubs throughout high school, college, and beyond. I led a departmental green team while I worked at the Vanguard Group, and I'm currently on the board of the Barkley Grounds Preservation Alliance and a member of the Natural Lands Trust. I do live in the borough, and I would be appreciative of the opportunity to be part of the committee.
Council members, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your interest. And is our other candidate here? Okay, we will move on then to the community campus candidate, Kane Bender.
Good evening. I'm Kane Bender. I'm currently on the board of the Uptown Canara Performing Arts Center, of which we hold a license, a liquor license. And I have been on the board since 2015. 2015. And I was responsible for developing the bar and the relationships that we needed and required to establish that bar. And since then, as part of the Uptown board, I've been working on building relationships with Westchester University, using the students to come and help us on several projects and continue to try to advance that program. I'm a Borough resident. I've got friends on the north side of town and friends on the south side of town. One of my responsibilities at Uptown is building relationships with restaurants and bars, building a partnership program with them to give members, if you're not a member at Uptown, you get 10% off of restaurants here in town. So I have relationship with those establishment owners. I'd be very interested in participating in this group. I helped on a mayoral campaign this last term and spoke with a lot of residents on the south side and learned a lot from them on issues that they wanted to be addressed by the mayor. A lot of them were concerns with relationships with the Westchester University. With that knowledge and the people I've talked to, I think I could add a lot to the committee. That's it. Any questions? Membership starts at only $100. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, moving on to Civil Service Commission. We have two candidates, Rich Eagles and Stephen Mitten. I think Mr. Eagles is out of the country. He was going to call in. Is he on? No. Okay. Stephen Mitten.
Good evening, Mayor, Borough Council. I am Stephen Mitten. I am a retired teacher, public school teacher. The last 20 years I spent right over there at Henderson High School. I am a history buff. I taught government and economics at Henderson High School for over 20 years. And I'm looking to help out. I'm looking to serve.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Any questions?
Just that you're on the agenda twice. So if you had a toss up or if you had a choice, which would you prefer? So I think you're up next too.
The Planning Commission, probably.
Okay.
I think, Westchester has done a very good job growing and, becoming the town that it is today. I'm a longtime resident, grew up on Rosedale Avenue, attended Westchester schools. I'm currently a borough resident. We live at 617 West Minor Street. And I think it's very important that we are able to provide suitable housing for all Westchesterians, for everybody, for longtime residents as well, and continue the smart growth in the borough.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, for the Planning Commission, we had three candidates, including Mr. Mitten. I think we're going to extend this for another month, since we had two last-minute dropouts, if everyone's okay with that. Okay, thank you. To the rest of the candidates, any other follow-up questions? Okay, we'll consider these and get back to you. Thank you. Item number 5, purpose of the April 1st executive session was to talk about personnel matters. Number 6, presentation by Christine Zaccarelli, the Crime Victims Center of Chester County regarding Sexual Assault Awareness Month 2024. Okay, thank you. Number 7, discuss the request of the Restoration Railroad Committee for November 2024 ballot initiative. Do we have somebody here from the Restoration Rail Committee to speak to this? Okay, seeing none, we will table this item as well. Number 8, under the parking agenda, motion to approve the draft lease for lot number 7, Chestnut Street and Darlington Street.
So seeing that the parking committee member is not here, this was to renew a lease with some revisions to Mr. McFadden, and it received a 3-0 recommendation.
Okay, any questions, or Ms. Reiner, you want to speak to this at all?
To expound a little bit, Mr. President, the applicant asked the Borough Council for 5 additional parking spots. He currently has 45 in that particular lot. He was asking for 5 more additional spots, and the committee did not support his request.
This is a continuation of a previous lease that was in conjunction with the land development agreement from 2003 for Darlington Commons, which is on the corner of Gay Street and Darlington, which is, I know we're 50-50 on how we feel about leases, but that's why this was continued. Mr. McFadden will be paying the current market rate for all of the spaces that he's leasing. So the total number was 45 for the lot, and then it will move, he will be paying for all of the signage in the lot. And we will be moving the kiosk from Chestnut Street over there, so the spaces will be kiosk after hours, similar to what we did at Lot 5.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? So the lease as it is was the 45 with a note to the 5 additional. Correct. So do we have a motion? Oh, okay. Yeah, consent. Okay. 7-0. Moving on to Public Works Committee. Motion to adopt the PADP resolution for sewer plan revision for land development at 250 East Market Street. Mr. Travis, do you have or your act? Sorry.
I apologize. I was busy reading what we were doing. The motion was the plan was to put new pipes from Market Street, where the Rubenstein building is, all the way down to East Neal Street. And the presentation was about the cost, somewhere in the vicinity of 1.3 or higher, to take out the old 12-inch sewer pipes and put in 21-inch sewer pipes to go halfway down to Lacey Street. And that's phase 1. And that would take care of the Rubenstein building from Lacey Street, or in that area all the way down to East Neal Street would be phase 2, which would be, additional funding for anyone that hooks on. And it was a very good presentation.
Comments or questions? Any from the public? Okay, looks like we have consent for that. Okay, moving on to public safety. Item 10, motion to waive busking requirements for World Music Day, downtown Westchester, June 21, 2024, with a 3-0 recommendation.
This is
Any
an annual,
comments?
yeah, no, again, this is a reoccurring event. I think we've done it the last 2 or 3 years. Received a 3-0 vote. It's just recognizing World Music Day, really the beginning of spring. And we offer music from, I think, 11 to 9 p.m. on that day on the street corners.
Okay, any questions? Comments? Public? Looks like we have consent. Number 11, motion to approve special event applications, which there are 4. Fraternal Order of Police event on May 9th, and a request to waive parking fees.
This also received a 3-0 consent. Porch Fest is a reoccurring event, as are both of the races and the Fraternal Order of Police event. There's nothing here that we haven't done in the past.
Okay, sounds like lots of events for the spring. Do we have consent? Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Number 12, motion to approve gallery walk start time to 4 PM, May 3rd and October 4th for downtown Westchester.
Same here, Mr. McCoy, a reoccurring event annually, and we typically free parking for these events in May and October.
Questions, comments?
I think one of the requests was because it started maybe at 5 the prior year, and because then it went later. The idea is to start it an hour early because they were finding that there was a little bit of pre-gaming, if you will, in the later hours of the event. So we want to have it done earlier versus later to make it more the community event that it's supposed to be versus a pre-game event. I think that was part of it too.
Yeah, I think we did that last year as well.
Mr. O'Brien?
John O'Brien, Executive Director, Downtown Westchester. I also wanted to take a quick moment, since we have great attendance tonight, to plug both events, just give a little quick background on both. So hopefully all the fine folks here will attend. So World Music Day is a celebration of summer. We have musicians set up throughout town, starting at 11 a.m. through 9. They'll play on street corners all over our downtown. This started out as an event called Fête de la Musique, which started in Paris. There are thousands of cities throughout the globe that do this. We started it as Fête de la Musique, and then people had trouble pronouncing it, so we've moved the name to World Music Day. So we're hoping that everybody here will come out and enjoy that. And then Friday, May 3rd is our Spring Gallery Walk, which is a self-guided art tour exploring our local art scene. There are 17 different shops and galleries that will be participants. If you want more information, go to downtownwestchester.com for the event map and any additional information about the events.
Thank you. We have consent?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now we'll move on to the items that I think everybody's here in attendance for. Number 13, discuss short-term rental ordinance, districts, parking requirement, and the approval process.
Okay, so as we know, we've been talking about this for quite some time, probably close to a year, if not a whole year. We're bringing this to council again to discuss because we've been kind of trying to figure out what the right answer is. And the Smart Growth Committee this past month, we started talking about it. I know personally, I had a bit of a change of perspective after meeting with my constituents in the Southeast during a case meeting that happened this past month. And we kind of decided that we might want to bring this forth to talk about it a little bit more again. So what this A, B, and C really means is districts. The conversation is no districts or town center versus town center plus neighborhood districts, if you will. That's kind of the three options that we've been all tooling around with for the past year. Parking requirement, if there should be a parking requirement in any of the districts that if we determine that we want to allow these short-term rentals. And then the approval process. There's 3 ways to approve a new short-term rental. It could either be by right, meaning that just kind of they can do it. It could be by going through the zoning board, which is a certain process of approval, or it could be through, now I forget the name. But conditional use, which means it would come to council and everyone would have an opportunity to actually come to council. That's the hardest way to get an approval. So where we left it with Smart Growth this past week was we were a little bit torn. I think we agreed on the parking. We said if town center doesn't necessarily have to have parking required because there's so many places to park in town. But if in fact we do move forward with a neighborhood type parking, that there would have to be some kind of parking stipulation if we moved into the neighborhoods. Approval process, we all were in agreement on the idea of the conditional use, making it, if there's a new one, we would think that we'd like it to be the hardest way to get a license or the ability to have that. the districts were where we were torn. I think we were leaning towards town center, although there's some people that are still around that might want to have it more than the town center, but that's kind of where we left it with the smart growth. And that's where we are saying, we're still torn, let's bring it back. We need to have the conversation because there's still a bit of a process that would even have to follow with updating the ordinance and all of that. I mean, there's nothing that could happen tonight or tomorrow night, if you will, because there's an ordinance that still needs to be updated, but we do want to have a conversation again on this because I know I've changed my perspective in the past month and we need to kind of see where our alignment is as of this date.
Council?
Could I ask a question of Nicole? What made you change your perspective specifically?
The biggest thing right now is, yes, there may be a few out there in the neighborhoods that are going under the radar and that are not, that are not specifically getting called out for a lot of fines or being called up by the police. We don't know, but the fact of the matter is if we say this is okay and we open it up, there could be a lot of opportunists that come in and we're not prepared. I mean, I actually kind of like, this is what Patrick was saying last month, right? Like, I think, we're not prepared to monitor that. And this was something that came up in the smart growth meeting as well. Like, we're struggling right now to monitor and really work through all of the ordinances and rules that are out there and regulations for zoning for student housing. And you know this very well, right? It's really hard to control what's going on to keep the neighborhood to a neighborly feel, even though there are all these rules and regulations in place. It's hard to really to enforce it. And so even if we did our best effort to put in rules and regulations in place with something, if we just let it spread out widely from the beginning, it's going to be a struggle. We're not going to get it right 100% the first time because you never do. And it could create a lot of thrash and I think Patrick said this as well last month, you can't go back, right? So if we start smaller, it gives us some learning lessons and, and I'm not, and I can see how if we open it up, there could be an opportunity for a lot of people to come in. And one other thing goes back to, I mean, it was best intentions, and a lot of people from my area said this, best intentions in 2008 or so to open up student rental capabilities in the Southeast quadrant. And that's great. But over the years, there's more trash. There is more noise. There are all of these things that make the Southeast quadrant a little less desirable to a lot of people because of the student rentals. And that's why we have the Westchester Community Campus Committee and why we have all these things, because we want to live in harmony, but it's work. And so we want to make sure that we don't create that same amount of work for the rest of the borough. That's the big reason.
Yeah, the number one, mind if I just add a comment? I kind of summarized the whole thing last year into 3 perceived positives and 3 perceived negatives, one of which, the largest one we're hearing right now, is a perceived negative of disruption of the quality of life in the neighborhoods, especially NC1 and NC2. South Quadrant, anywhere that's bordering close to or around the university, and for good reasons, right? Nuisance has been a problem. I mean, we should not beat around the bush. It's the student rentals that are the problem. I think there's a perception that short-term rentals will have the same impact. I don't know if that's true. We're basing this a little bit on some perception. I wouldn't say it's completely 100% speculative, but I just did want to put that out there because there are also perceived positives. The perceived positives are economic opportunity for small short-term rental businesses, quality visitor experiences and tourism dollars spent at local establishments, and then revenue for the borough. So one of the things that, as I was doing a little bit of research on my own, one of my neighbors who's a realtor in Ward 2 handed me the policy statement from the PA Association of Realtors. And in that statement, it's a one-pager. The number one thing they're advocating for is the right to own and use property. So we have to be careful in terms of, I mean, that is a right that's protected by the 5th and 14th Amendment. But also to strike a balance with regulation around the neighborhoods and quality of life issues. So it's not doing one or the other, but it's trying to figure out how to live in harmony together. I think that that's going to be a challenge for us based on the 5th recommendation in the same study or the same policy statement, which is bullet number 5 recommendation, which is municipalities should adopt and enforce a uniform nuisance control policy. That's coming from the realtors. They have identified that that is something that needs to happen. We have one of those in place. The question is it the right system and does it work? And I think a lot of people would say no. And that's why there's a lot of hesitation to move forward into the neighborhoods with this. That's my comment, that's all.
And where do you stand?
I stand with Ward 2 and Ward 4 neighbors who have come forward and are very much against this now. I was on the other side of this and I really want to make it work, but I want proof that the nuisance can be under control before I feel comfortable moving forward.
With any or town center?
For me, it's an all or none. I mean, the town center, I mean, these are not walls. They're alleys and, you know, there's lines on a map, but, you know, my property borders town center. So for me, it makes no difference. So it's all or none. We do this or we don't.
Thank you. Other comments?
I've been against the possibility of putting short-term rentals in the neighborhoods because our neighborhoods are quaint, neighborly people that live in them, and they know who their neighbors are. And by putting a short-term rental in the middle of a block, it's like putting a mini motel in the middle of a block. That's the first time anybody's ever clapped for me. Billy, I need you to save that. 7 years, that's the first time somebody said that I thought something was right. Because my wife tells me I'm wrong all the time. So anyway, the biggest thing is quality of life. Most of our houses are twins or they're like portico row, they're attached. And when you have a family living in a house and the next door people change every 2 or 3 days, and you have a family living in there, the children wonder, who are these people next door? And I think it's very uncomfortable to raise a family in an area where we have transient people coming and going every 2 or 3 days. Full disclosure, Ms. Dorsey likes me to always say this. I do own, well, the family owns 3 Airbnbs, but they're not anywhere in any neighborhoods. The other fact of the matter is for the short-term rentals is that the parking, even though we know what we can legislate parking all you want, but short-term rentals are really used mainly on Thursdays to Sundays, and Saturdays and Sundays there are very little or no enforcement of parking in the borough, and cars will be everywhere and the neighbors will be displaced. But my main thing is the quality of the neighborhood for our families with children living next door to people that come and go every day. Now, short-term rentals are not new. If you're from this area, you either went to Ocean City, Sea Isle, Long Beach Island, Cape May, they're all short-term rentals, okay? But you never saw the people after the week you were there because everybody's coming and going. So we're pretty used to short-term rentals in our lives, but not in the middle of a block in a neighborhood. My biggest fear is that investors will start buying the houses and start using them for profit. And that's not what our neighborhoods are for. Thank you.
Two times, Bernie. So, uh, so Mr. Flynn, are you for,
That's a first.
are you for a town center or none?
Town center only,
And with parking or no
with
parking?
no parking, because we have plenty of parking in our parking garages and our flat lots. And it'd be in the business district. People can easily go out to dinner and walk home and go and, you know, do what they need to do. The business district is totally different than our neighborhoods.
Mr. McCoy, I think everyone at this point knows that I have been a proponent of the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals. We have them in our neighborhoods today. We had a resident, we've gotten a lot of mail over the last week and a half. We had someone indicate that there are 60 or more already in the borough. I've been contacted by constituents in my ward and Airbnb owners, to the best of my knowledge, and we've had the police share before, that they have not been a nuisance. I think last week someone said they turn into, you know, drug homes or drug havens. We have not had that experience. Because we have them, I do believe they need to be controlled. I've mentioned this as well before, the same way that we manage bed and breakfast and only allow so many. As I said, a resident indicated that there are 60 or more already in the borough that are not regulated or managed in any form or fashion. They're not supposed to be here, but they are here. And I think, Mr. McGinnis, last week you pulled up 40 or so, right? So they're here and it's happening. I think that what we need to think about, and I think Nicole Shimoni, you mentioned this, is we need to consider how we are going to regulate them, how we are going to limit them. 60 sounds like an awful lot to me in the borough and may in fact be too many. But, you know, we need to be very strategic, and all of the concerns that have been raised up here around, you know, it turning into an investment destination. And, you know, again, last week, someone, you know, said, and Mr. Flynn just indicated, you know, that there'll be strangers fraternizing with our children. We have that risk anyway. You know, this is a destination. I think we've all experienced that. People from the outside, whether it's a weekend, a day, an event, a parade, this is a destination. And we have a shortage of short-term rentals. We have one hotel in the borough. We have another one going up. There are some outside of the borough. I don't know that anyone would want to stay there. But they, you know, there is limited short-term housing. We are a college town with a lot of events on and off campus where folks need a place to stay, and it draws economics to the businesses, you know, whether it's a retail store, a restaurant, or some other business. It draws people. People are coming here. I know folks who have rented them for weddings. I know people who have rented them for homecoming. I know people who have rented them for special events. And to the best of my knowledge, and again, in speaking with Chief Moorhead, who's, you know, now retired, and I think Chief Lee said, you know, unless we had the statistics around parcel numbers and homeowners, property owners, we couldn't say for sure that they haven't been a nuisance. But to the best of the police department's knowledge, it has not been a problem. It needs to be regulated. It cannot be a free-for-all. And, you allow even one on every block. But we have them already, and we have to figure out how we're going to manage them.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree with Ms. Dorsey, the fact that these short-term rentals are not regulated. They're not regulated at all. That means they don't have an inspection process, which means it could be a fire hazard or safety hazard. Okay? To me, that's unacceptable. And I think that they do need to be regulated. We've heard the arguments here. I did contact the chief of police. He was not able to reference any of the short-term rentals as of yet with any types of crime. So anecdotally, the question I asked him was there any crime coming out of short-term rentals? And he replied, it's in the email, anecdotally, no. People aren't going to come here and rent a room or a home and then go out and commit crime. I mean, then they're going to leave a paper trail. I mean, that would be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But when you look at these instances that happened in other communities, it's because of total lack of regulation. We've received emails from people about various articles, one in Chadds Ford. Again, Chadds Ford does not regulate it. And what we need to do is have some type of regulation. That's why I'm for Town Center, NC1, NC2. And with that, I sent our solicitor a list of recommendations that I would like to see. No more than 20 to 25 short-term rentals per year. She's looking into that to see if that is lawful. That means we would know who is going to be here as far as the short-term rental, the host community. They're going to have to go through an application process through either zoning hearing or conditional use, as we had mentioned. So again, we know who they are. I put in here that the homeowner has to have a residence and live within 10 miles. She doesn't know if that's lawful yet, but she's going to look into that. A property management committee or property management outfit that has to be within 5 miles of the borough. We already have that in our rental agreements here. The other item I mentioned here, and we talked about the process to grant the application, as I mentioned, either the zoning hearing board or going through conditional use in front of the borough. That would need to be done. They have to have an inspection prior to the rental. How many of these have inspections that we know of on the books? Do we know of any, Sean? We don't. So that means the places now, we don't know if they're safe or not, which means you don't know if they're safe or not. That's not a good thing. That's why we need to regulate it. The other thing is that the homeowner must provide a liability insurance of at least $500,000. That's going to limit a hell of a lot of people. Okay? The other thing too, we talked about parking restrictions. For parking restrictions here, I believe that you should have one parking space per bedroom. Okay? And that's in restricted area of parking, permit parking. Unrestricted areas, the northern part of the borough, there needs to be proof. There needs to be proof of parking. Town center, there's plenty of proof because you have garages. And the other item too goes back to the regulation and the fining. Those that don't comply, the people that we catch that aren't complied, they can face a fine up to $500 per day. That's a lot. So that puts a lot of regulation into short-term rentals. There was a comment made that people are going to buy up these homes. Well, they could buy up these homes and rent them out anyway as long-term rentals. We've seen that happen. Okay? So the thing is, without any regulation, these things could potentially spiral out of control. And the people that are coming into Westchester, their grandparents are going to come here for graduation for the most part. They're people that are going to be visiting town for the most part. You got to be 21 years or older. And the thing is that wasn't mentioned is that people that
rent short-term rentals can be discriminated against because of their score with either Verbo or Airbnb. The people that are renting these, people know who they are. When you rent at the Hotel Warner or the new hotel, you just put your credit card down. That's it. No one knows who the hell you are, but at least people know who you are. So that's why I believe that we need to regulate it. I believe if we could limit them to either 25 or 20 per year, in which case they have to go through a reapplication process again, that they need to have the permits, they need to have them inspected. I think that's a good thing. Because right now, as Ms. Dorsey mentioned, you probably got about 20, maybe to 60 short-term rentals that aren't on the books. They could all be fire hazards in your neighborhood and you don't know. So that's why I believe in the regulation. The other thing too, regarding homes, and people said this, the economic argument was made that people are going to take up and buy all these homes and it's contributing to the housing crisis. That's not true. That goes back to 2008, the Great Recession. That goes back to what just happened recently in the pandemic. We're roughly, if you look anywhere from Market Watch to the Wall Street Journal to anything, sorry, that's my background is economics, we're about 3.6 million, 7.2 million homes short in this country that's contributing to the housing crisis, not to mention interest rates and inflation. So people need places to live. We want to bring in quality people, okay? And the short-term rentals allow the discriminatory process to do such a thing. That hasn't been talked about, but it is a fact. Now, with that being said, since we cannot get some of these answers from our solicitor, I would like this tabled to go back to the Smart Growth Committee next month so that we could further discuss this.
I'll second that.
Mr. Metrick, could you call the question with that?
I don't think there's a question.
Well, but I mean, we could have public comments, but to table it.
I would just also like to say, that's a nice list of regulations. I like that for town center, not for the entire borough. But I think I think you've been very thoughtful and I do appreciate the regulations. And if we do go with town center, I still would not go with the neighborhoods. But if we do go with town center, I do think that it's worth thinking about that regulation list for town center and utilizing some of those ideas and others that are legally okay to use.
Clearly, we're split. I mean, so it has to go back to smart growth anyway. I guess I would just add the comment that, obviously they need to be regulated. But the point of having in town center at least to start, that we can figure out what are the appropriate additional things we need, additional regulations, all the ones that you spoke about. So, so we'll take it back to smart growth. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
Yeah.
You may, if you'd state your name and address, and just a reminder, I'm going to keep you all to 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, that's fine. I was actually going to talk about the growers market, but I clean an Airbnb outside of town on New Street, like at the end of New Street over on Grubbs Mill Road. I clean that Airbnb, and I know the owners, and I've worked with Airbnb. I actually used to be a property manager, and as long as you're working with conscientious hosts, there's no problem, because Airbnb has ratings on the listing, and most people won't go to an Airbnb if it does 4.8 or higher because of cleanliness, because of noise, because of everything. And so I think if you guys really just focus on like maybe a 3 strikes you're out, or say you have to keep your rating above a 4.8, you have to screen your guests. And most of the people who apply for Airbnb have to have an ID. They have to have a profile. They have to have an ID. They have to have all these different things just to join the site. And so you could just require all of your people who are hosts to make sure that all 4 of those regulations are in place on Airbnb, because that would take a lot off of your backs. Airbnb does a lot of their own regulating, so I think you guys could piggyback off of that.
Thank you for your comments.
Wait, come back. What your name? Where you live?
I'm Rebecca, and I live on Biddle Street.
Hello, Council. My name is Caleb. I live in Ward 4 on South Adams Street. I just have a prepared statement to address some of my concerns. So I would like to express my strong disapproval of proliferation of short-term rentals in our community. While I understand there is potential, again, potential for economic benefit that it may bring, I do believe that the negative impacts in our neighborhoods would outweigh any short-term gains. Most significantly is the erosion of our neighborhoods and community identity. These short-term rentals will disrupt the fabric of our community by introducing a revolving door of strangers. This will diminish our sense of belonging and cohesion amongst our neighbors. It also, poses safety concerns as those are forced to share their wall, as many of us live in twins or row homes, with someone we will never know. These neighbors become transient guests, and the bonds that we build over time will weaken as consistent turnover becomes the new normal. And again, as Council had mentioned, the trend of corporations purchasing properties solely for short-term rentals is a present and grave threat to the stability of our community. These entities prioritize profit over the well-being of its citizens of our town, and long-term residents are often displaced when this happens. So this not only diminishes our socioeconomic diversity of our neighborhoods, but also threatens the very essence of what makes Westchester a vibrant and thriving community. Moreover, the influx of short-term rentals will exacerbate our parking problems that we have among students, amongst the residents that live here. This will just, as many as regulations that we put out there, they will continue to be broken and cause inconvenience, strife, safety concerns as in case of an emergency when roads need to be open as possible. So with these concerns in mind, along with others that have been presented in the past and have been presented today, I urge the council to take the decisive action to continue to limit short-term rentals, especially out of our neighborhoods. The sustainability of our neighborhoods over short-term financial gains is paramount, as well as the safety and well-being of our citizens. So thank you for listening to my perspective. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, a resident sent all of us an email stating that he took the time to do the research of all the various Airbnbs that are in the borough. I have not reached out to the solicitor to see if we're allowed to accept that list from the resident. If we are, I'll make sure you know about it, get a copy of it and follow through. But currently the Airbnbs are illegal. And I request that our building and housing start doing their due diligence like the resident did. My turn, Red. And start to do the due diligence to find out where they are and start sending out notices, cease and desist, because it is illegal and we've been turning a blind eye. And our solicitors also told us in an email that and Mr. Metric, you were on the email as well, that we need not keep kicking this can down the road. We need to start enforcing it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 14.
Ann Carroll, 506 South Franklin Street. I will not do what I had prepared for tonight, but I will tell you that this is all my fault because over a year ago, I believe, I sent an email to our then building and housing director simply because I was looking at the concepts of Airbnb and I decided to Google, are there any in Westchester? And sure enough, I found one. And I simply sent an email to Mr. Gore saying, I just saw this. Is this legal in the borough? To which he responded after a little research, no. So I challenge anybody up there who knew any of these existed, unless you don't know to question the code. This is a rental. I'm sure you all know that every rental is required to have a permit. They're all illegal. Just like any other illegal use in the borough, we should be addressing it. Some other issues. I really don't want to pause, but thanks. Bernie used it all up. The issue is more than neighborhood. It's a return. First of all, this is history repeating itself. And I know you don't want to hear about student homes, but this is how it happened. First, it started with little old ladies renting a room to a student, no harm, no foul. Then it became a house. Then it became, I'm buying a house for investment. Then we have LLCs, and that's what happened. And we, the neighbors, have been dealing with it ever since. All the enforcement in the world basically relies on a neighbor making a report. I don't want to have to be a policeman. I've been one since 1979. The economic impact, there is no revenue stream from these. They pay the same property tax as I do. We have two revenue streams, property taxes. Student homes have done nothing but deteriorate that, except for one, which I will mention in a minute. But the other one is earned income tax. You're going to get no earned income tax from these homes unless the owner lives in it, and then they won't need a job because the money's coming in from the revenue stream. And I looked at our tax, Keystone tax, earned income tax today. I don't believe that's taxable because ours is essentially a wage earned income tax, but I may be wrong about that.
The county does, the county
Mhm.
does receive hotel tax.
Then, but from hotels, I don't believe.
That's what it's considered.
Well,
That's the way they consider that.
I would hope that you research that before I go forward.
did.
One of the articles you sent, actually, I read your articles, and
Yeah.
it did talk a little bit, but it said it's tricky for Airbnb to enforce this hotel tax. There's been like some rub there on who enforces it, and it's been hard to get the Airbnb to actually enforce it if the people that own the place don't pay it. So,
And I'm not aware that the hotel tax comes back to the borough, but I would need to know that. I believe it goes to the county because I asked that question when I was on council. Okay, so the earned income tax, you're just going to lose it. People don't understand earned income tax. If the person who owns that building does not live in it, they don't pay Westchester's earned income tax. If I work in the borough, but I don't live in the borough, I don't pay Westchester's earned income tax. So people don't understand that. So there is an economic issue, including the burden that will be put on building and housing, police, and public works, perhaps, to pick up trash. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll move on to 14, considering entering into a That's like a nice little break between. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Eagles. Tell us about yourself and why you're interested in the position.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to the Borough Council for being flexible with your time. I find myself currently at a business conference in Vegas and did not finish my delivery of exercises before the time was up on the meeting. So again, thank you for your flexibility. My name is Rich Eagles. I'm a resident of the borough for the last several years. I live on 400 South Church Street and am an active member of our community, being the majority inspector of election of our good old Ward 3 down there, and participating in multiple activities, including hosting bands at Porch Fest and supporting plantings by the Green Team, etc. I'm a management consultant by trade. What I do for a living is help organizations become more effective and more efficient at what they do. I am passionate about taking that skill set of analyzing problems and bringing practical solutions to my hometown, where all of my friends, my family, and my neighbors live. And so I would like to serve on the commission to help support bringing police officers into our town who are able to understand the unique criteria and characteristics of Westchester that help to navigate some of the demographics of our city. I'm passionate about hiring more police officers of color and Spanish-speaking police officers, given our large Spanish-speaking population, but also making sure we bring in the most qualified, most talented individuals who will be part of our community, walking among us, living among us, and interacting with us on a regular basis. So I'm hoping to take my professional skill set of consulting, my active involvement in the community, and give back to the community in this way by serving as an alternate on the committee.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Thank you very much. Safe travels.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to item 14. Consider entering into a housing development proposal agreement with Penrose Properties on Lot 10, Chestnut and Church, and I think Ms. Simone is going to kick this off.
Yes. So first and foremost, I do want to make sure that, because I've heard the word on the street is that there was a misperception or understanding of what committee recommendation to discuss with full borough council really meant. So I want to make sure that that's clear when, this is another one where on the Smart Growth Committee, we were presented this, presentation, which I believe we're going to hear a little bit of. But the idea was we were presented the presentation on our discussion agenda regarding the idea of building a lower income housing, affordable housing property on this lot. During our conversation, I know that there were many concerns that we brought up during the meeting with regards to parking, with regards to the benefit that the lot provides to the community with people going to restaurants and things like parking and coming to the community. And also with regards to where I've heard a lot of the flavor this week from the growers market. I mean, there was a lot of conversation that we had on our committee as well. But we left it with the idea that we had our own concerns, but because it was on the discussion agenda, we would bring it here tonight to have the conversation in an open forum with the rest of the borough council members. So I just want to make sure no one is coming here thinking that we've all been gung-ho about this proposal and you're here to tell us, no, you're wrong. Because we also have trepidations and concerns about it. And we're here to have a good conversation about it. But just want to make sure that that's clear so that you guys understand where our perspective is from, and that we believe it's important, though, to have all these conversations in a public forum about anything that comes towards us as a borough council, that it's important to have these open conversations.
By the way, there are a bunch of folks out in the hallway. Feel free to come in. There's lots of wall space in here.
5 seats up front.
So, Mr. Metric, do we have a short presentation from Penrose or not? Yeah. Hot seat.
Yeah.
If you would, please, maybe a little bit shorter than the smart growth presentation.
We'll go fast.
Thank you.
Yes. So, hello, my name is Ryan Bailey, Penrose LLC. Yep, you got it. I'm a 97 graduate of Henderson. I am Sorry to have created such a fuss, but I hope to provide some useful information tonight to everyone to alleviate some of their fears. Members of Borough Council, Mayor, Borough staff, and residents of Westchester. Thank you for putting this topic on the agenda tonight for public discussion. Since the Smart Growth meeting last week, this topic has clearly received a great deal of public attention. So we thank you for the opportunity to address these concerns, create lines of communication with all parties, and work together to determine the best possible outcome for the borough and its stakeholders. Before we move on, I want to say we look forward to the growers market thriving in the borough for decades to come, and believe we can coexist and perhaps even improve the condition of the growers market in the heart of Westchester. I take responsibility for not having those conversations already with market leadership, but I want to assure everyone that we have plenty of time to do so and are open to collaboration with the market. I heard on the way in, growers market or affordable housing. I contend there can be both. The reason we are here is because the borough has an opportunity to secure funding from the county for an affordable housing development, and that application is due May 30th. The next round will likely be May 2025 or perhaps 2026. It's not yet been determined. Even if approval was given to pursue county funds now, construction could not start on the site until mid-2026, 2 years from now. After an agreement with Growers Market and full zoning, historic, and land development process with the borough would still have to go through. I just want to say that one more time. Even if we decide at this point to move forward, construction would not start till mid-2026. We'd have to go through an agreement with the Growers Market. We'd have to go through full zoning, historic, and land development process with the borough. This is very early on in the process. The ask tonight is for the borough to allow their staff and solicitor to work with Penrose on a conditional letter of intent that would allow Penrose to apply for these critical affordable housing funds from the county next month, and also to work with the Growers Market on an outline with an understanding with them. The borough has made it clear that affordable housing is a priority in their comprehensive plan. New attainable/affordable developments in the county have waiting lists that are 10 times the number of units available. The vacancy rate of affordable housing in the county is 0. The borough has approved more than 528 units of luxury apartments over the last 24 months, and not one of these units was affordable. There is a need to have high quality, affordable housing in the borough. The value of the land in Westchester has skyrocketed in recent years, and that has made it more difficult to find land that is financially feasible for affordable housing. Other municipalities like Phoenixville have utilized publicly owned land to create high quality affordable housing. That is why we approached the borough. We understand the proposed development has created several initial concerns, and I'd like to address a few of them right up front. Relocation of the Growers Market. Borough Council approved the closure of Gay Street from May 3rd to September 30th, Friday through Monday, and the Growers Market could be, if they choose, to be relocated there with a more central location for those 5 months in the summer. The proposed building would replace the existing car parking largely where it is now and undercover. So during the other 7 months or all year round, it would be possible to host the Growers Market there out of the rain and snow. There are many more options available. In very close proximity to the existing site that include parking lots or other street closures to ensure the Growers Market can continue to thrive. Again, construction would not begin until mid-2026 at the earliest, so we have plenty of time to make those arrangements. Public parking. There are currently 57 public parking spaces on the lot. There are already shared parking arrangements where several of the spaces are leased during the day and available to the public in the evening. Our intention is to replace those parking spaces in addition to those for residential use above. The preliminary studies shown at Smart Growth reflected only 30 or 48 spaces. We now have been given multiple sets of plans that have already been engineered on the site to show a 2-level parking deck that would yield 110 to 141 spaces. This would allow replacement of the existing public parking to be utilized by the borough and include 50 to 84 spaces for the 60 to 80 units above. Land transfer. We have proposed both a purchase option and a long-term ground lease option to the borough for their consideration. Again, transfer would not happen until May 2026 at the earliest. Conditions would be agreement with the growers market for their operations, borough zoning approval, securing all financing from the county and the state, and then, of course, borough land development. So I just wanted to hit all that stuff right up front. I'm glad to quickly go through this presentation. I'll fly through it. I understand it took a while in Smart Growth, so I'll just hit on these. I know there's going to be a lot of public comment, so I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. We are here to, write down all the concerns and try to address them just like we did the ones from Smart Growth. So if you want to, can you click through a couple times or click through the next one? I'll try to speak into the microphone. All right, we all know what the purpose is. I don't have to go into that. The problem, of course, is the county is the number one, has the highest median average home in the state, 149th nationally. Borough employees struggle to find lower or middle income employees, so there's a lot of turnover. Many can't live where they work. Nearly half of the renters are cost burdened. Cost burden is paying more of 30% of their income in rent. So over half of the renters, actually almost half, it's 48% in the county are rent burdened. Affordable definitions, I'm here to say we're talking about real affordable housing here. This is low-income housing tax credits. This is making sure these are income restricted for 40 years. This is not a developer coming in and saying, oh, affordable or attainable and not actually building them. We are building affordable housing units here. These are all the percentages. It's based on percentage of AMI. And we would pursue the low-income housing tax credit, which fund 50 to 70% of the development. And we would also have a handful of attainable or workforce. So those are middle income rentals. The idea behind that is you can't just build a brand new building and just happen to charge less rent. We would go to all the major employers in the borough and ask them to sign a master lease. We don't need too many. We probably have maybe 15 units that are, quote, attainable. We would sign a master lease with them so they could lease the units from us and then offer them to their employees at a reduced rate, whatever discount they provide. Next slide, please. So these are just an idea of what the rents are. Clearly, the rents for the affordable units are going to be way less than market. The whole idea is that the resident pays 30% of their income. Next. This is just a chart showing how middle income and lower income is actually 48% of everybody in the county. So we're talking about physical therapists, registered nurses, dental hygienists, elementary school teachers, administrative assistants, postal carriers, firefighters. These are working families. I was just talking to the Delaware County Housing Authority Executive Director today. He said that 70% of his residents have jobs, are employed. Next, what can municipalities do? So if this is something that the municipality is interested in doing, developers need land. It's very difficult to put these deals together. This is very expensive construction. We can't afford to pay high-end rates for these types of developments. So municipalities are partnering with developers to work with them on zoning and to work with them on finding funding sources and enabling them to get land for these developments. Next. This is a blurb about Penrose. We've been around for 50 years. We're based out of Philadelphia. We've done a lot of work in the county and in southeastern Pennsylvania. We have a development company and a management company. We've done a lot of deals over the years. This is just real quick. Please flip through. This is actually the exact presentation before. Continue. We have a management company. So it's really important. We would have on-site management and on-site maintenance in this facility. This is not, we're not managing it from Philadelphia or some other county. We are going to be here. We're going to be on site. We have Mary Taylor House in the borough. We think it's a beautiful development. It's also affordable. Next, please. These are examples of affordable housing developments we have done recently, just to show you that they're very nice, beautifully designed buildings. Next. Delaware County. Next. Mary Taylor House here in Westchester. Next. Phoenixville, senior housing. And this is also in Phoenixville. And this is Amani Village. This is a project we have down in Wilmington. All right, so the site, clearly everybody in the room knows of the site. I don't have to talk about that at all. I will say that there have been a couple of different attempts at developing this. There was one in 2013 where there was an RFP out for a couple of developments on there. Ultimately, obviously nothing went through. There was discussion of parking. There was discussion of housing. I do not believe there was a discussion of affordable housing at that time. So that is there's a new wrinkle to this. Next. So we have a very good architecture firm that we just had look at this in a couple of different iterations. I'm just showing you that we spent some time looking at this. We had maxed out at 102 units. I think the end development is much smaller than that. And this is a U-shaped building with public access through the middle. This is a combination of efficiencies, 1 and 2, and a handful of 3-bedroom units. Next, these buildings are very energy efficient. We're required to do that as part of affordable housing. So these are really green buildings, probably some of the greenest buildings that would be built in the borough. Mary Taylor House is LEED Gold. It has solar on the roof. It has a green roof. Like, these are very well constructed developments. Next, we've not figured out exactly which orientation we would do. We are, again, early on in this process. We're here talking to you, determining if this is something the municipality would like us to pursue. These are, some of the other developments in town. We would hope to have a similar exterior finish. I grew up in Westchester. I know it's a good looking town. We want to keep it that way. Next. Okay, so best case, this is basically the schedule that we would go through. I've already said it a number of times. We would not break ground until May of 26 at the absolute earliest, if all approvals and everything just went perfectly. So there's plenty of time to have these conversations and make sure everybody's on board. Next. The transfer of land. This is a little technical, but there are ways that the borough can transfer land to a developer. Obviously, this is a public process. This is open. We're here to discuss this. I know this is on YouTube. So we're here to try to work through this with you. And really the opportunity is that, there is funding at the county that is available in a month and a half, and it may be available next year. It may not be available. So that's why we're bringing it to your attention now. Next, reasons for the borough. Obviously, the affordable housing, 10X. There's a development that just opened up in Calne. It's 120 units. They've got 1,100 people on the waiting list. It's not even open. The 60 units that they're building up in Phoenixville, there's 600 people on the waiting list. It's not even open. So there is just an absolute crazy demand in the county. I talked about the employer master lease, community revitalization program funds. So there is actually a bonus that the borough would get to apply for those funds from the county. That would help with infrastructure, that would help the surrounding area. So you actually get a more competitive application with the county for those. Obviously, you get, new households, new earned income credit, more construction jobs. This development pay building permits, utility connection fees, land development, annual real estate taxes. Mary Taylor House pays $65,000 a year in real estate taxes, so that would be paid as well. We're not asking for freebies there. And you would help create a regional model in this area. A lot of people are trying to figure out how to do attainable and workforce housing, and this is a model that could work. And then a surface parking lot is a development site waiting to happen. I know there's a lot of people here that very much like this site. If you look in major cities, if you look in boroughs, this is a land planners do not like public surface parking lots. We can replace parking there at the same level that there is now, build housing, and also create a space for the growers market. We'll have some retail on the corner. The parking would be hidden. Right now, it's right there. Anybody driving by can see the fronts and the sides of cars. We would have it tucked. You'd enter off Patton in the back, and we would be able to shield it going down Church Street. And so it would be covered, hidden parking. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk through some of these. I apologize that it has become such a big issue. We started some conversations and it quickly went to smart growth and it quickly went here. And it obviously has created a wrinkle in the town. And so just thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Council, questions?
If I could start, Mr. McCoy, one, I'd like to thank Mr. Bailey it's clear to me that he heard the concerns from council last week around the parking. Then the subsequent storm that started as a result of that specific parking lot and the growers market revenue. It's clear to me, in a short period of time that he has taken the time to address those concerns. And I think, we need to keep in mind that this is a discussion. I think what you're up against is the timeline, right? Because the runway is very short. I think if we had a longer runway, there would not be as much emotion as there is tied up in this discussion. I'm sorry, I have the floor. Affordable housing is in shortage. Having experienced it myself at Pinckney Hill, when we opened up that application 2 or 3 years ago, people started lining up at 11 p.m. the night before. They slept in tents, they slept in cars. The line was down the block and around the corner. We have a housing shortage. Most of us live in I'm sorry, reclaiming my time. I have the floor. We have a shortage of housing in this community, in the county. And I don't think that the 10 times the waiting list is an exaggeration. I've seen it. Affordable, attainable housing is part of the comprehensive plan of the borough as well as the county. It's been in there for maybe a decade. It's been in there a long time. And the borough, specifically, since it's what we're talking about, has not done much about it. We have the Mary Taylor House, which was a product of the Hickman. We have Pinckney Hill, which was a product of the Melton Center. Yes, we had to go through the same process that every development has to go through before zoning and planning, but it was not initiated by the borough or by the county. It was initiated by the Melton Center, seeing a need and meeting that need in this community. again, I think what we're up against is the timeline. If there is a way to extend the timeline so that we really have time to think.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
We're up against the timeline. If there's a way to extend that, I think we should consider that. The other point that I wanted to make was, and it escapes me because of the rudeness of some of the attendees here. It will come back to me. But again, Mr. Bailey, I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to listening to us. The other point was the economics of the parking lot. Parking provides a significant amount of revenue to the borough. And that is another hurdle that I think we need to get over. That lot, Ramsey, I think generates over $100,000 a year. Yeah. So, that's a big nut to crack. If you're thinking about long-term turnover of that space and what that means to the borough. Like your creativity around extending the number of parking spaces and leasing those back or making those available back to the borough, so that there is a possibility of continuing to generate that income for the borough.
Additional comments, questions, council?
Yeah, I agree that the timing is problematic. I don't know that this council, I'm new to this council, I just got sworn in January. We've even had a discussion about the development of that lot. And this is a proposal that we're seeing and we're discussing, and it feels very premature to me without having a larger conversation about the vision of the area and what the potential of that lot could be. And it may end up being affordable housing. I don't want to say low income, but might be affordable housing. It might be where we land. But I feel like this is the decision that we're making under kind of a duress situation. And it doesn't feel fair to the residents that are here in attendance to continue discussing until we've had a chance to really absorb what we're hearing. We may end up coming back to you in a year or two or hearing from others too. But I do feel it would be fair for us to do our due diligence and study this a little bit more before jumping into something.
Yeah, I could address that quickly. I agree. It's not my application, it's the county application. It literally came out yesterday. We did know that it was coming out. I completely agree. This is rushed and this is a big decision. We wanted to bring it to the borough's attention that this was an opportunity. There are other funds at the county that are also available. The original thought was the county has this application slated for every other year. So there wasn't really a guarantee that there would be an application next year. So you're like May of this year or you're May of 2 years from now applying. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention. And so that's what we did. And we very quickly put something together that would try to make some sense. I understand the position that you guys are in. I am listening to the audience. I want to listen to what their concerns are. And, maybe we can work together to figure something out, maybe not for this May, maybe for next May. So I'm willing to have that conversation. We're willing to, invest in Westchester. We love this town. And we want to do the right thing at the end of the day.
Thank you.
So the management of the property, if it were to come to fruition, would they be exempt from paying property taxes in the borough? So they would be able to pay, they would pay property taxes, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The building would pay property taxes.
The other question I had, you mentioned about 200 construction jobs and you're getting a lot of public money with that. What in consideration would there be for any type of project labor agreement or any type of prevailing wage to be on that job? If there was, has that been taken into consideration for the construction
So typically these developments would have a mixture of union and merit-based. So that's an open conversation in all these developments. You know, we would not be required, based on the funding sources that we would go after, to be required to use Davis-Bacon wage rates, which is a federal rate. But yes, we are committed to hiring locally, hire subs that are local. That is written right in. We want to hire. Yes, we'd be open to that. We deal with that in every development we do. I'm sure there was one at Mary Taylor House.
Other questions, comments?
Is it okay if I read this email from Sheila? Sheila wrote to Patrick and Sean because she had a conflict tonight. As you can see, she wasn't able to come. And this is what she wrote. I know we will be considering Penrose Properties' proposal. I would ask that before we move forward with any agreement, if council is truly interested in adding affordable housing, and I am very much for this move, we reach out to other builders who would be able to offer alternate proposals. I do not want to move forward with Penrose simply because they were the first to approach us. I believe additional affordable housing builders are out there, and taking time to review options is important when considering the best ways to strengthen our community. Please share my opinions at Tuesday's meeting. This is kind of what I said on last week. You know, I love the idea of trying to find affordable housing for Westchester. I love that idea. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of this particular location and this particular plan for a variety of reasons. Oh, no, just we're joking about but no, but seriously. So, and a lot of it's because, I was trying to kind of do some different types of math. I mean, there's the parking revenue, which will only grow over the years. There's the growers market, which affects, I guess this is where I was headed with my thoughts at one point. Building 100 units, that'll affect maybe 150 people on the regular. Right now, that space, if you think about like if 30 unique people park in that lot each week, that's like 1,500 people affected a year. And then if you add in like all the restaurants and the businesses that are affected by the people that park in that lot and that grow their business on the Friday, Saturday nights when it's full, then you're layering in a couple other 100 people that have jobs in the community or running their own businesses, trying to make their own living. And then if you layer in on top of that all the revenue that comes in and then how it gets dispersed throughout our community for use on different things, then there's even more people that are affected by the use of this space right now as it stands versus the affordable housing. It's actually a very, even being just a flat parking lot that could potentially be, I don't know if it can be built up or not from an engineering standpoint and be built up. But even right now, as it stands, it's a very useful property to a number of individuals in this Westchester Borough community and beyond. And so that's where I struggle with this space and this plan. But similar to what Brian said and similar to what you said, if you keep working and keep looking and we keep thinking, and to what Lisa said, if we had more time, we might be able to find a space somewhere, just maybe not this one, but maybe somewhere else.
The Smart Growth had a meeting last week, and Mr. Bailey sailed in and gave us his presentation, which was very well presented. Mr. Bailey, thank you. I think you covered all the details of what was very interesting and what you thought was a viable option for the borough. I commend you and your team for doing exactly that. But this lot 10, once the borough sells lot 10, it's non-replaceable. There's not another spot in the borough that we can call our own that's that large is 28,500 square feet. Once it's gone, it's gone. And the thought of building more housing on that spot does not sit well for me. The density of the borough, whether the United States federal government wants to agree to it or not, we have 40,000 people that live in this borough. 20 full-time and 17 to 20 college kids that are here from September or August until May. So we have 40,000 people already living in the borough. Our density is that of Philadelphia. We're 1.8 square miles, and our density right now is at its max. The 4 new developments that are being built in the borough, we will realize another 1,000 people living in the borough in the next 2 years. So that's the thought on that. We do have 7 low income or affordable housing units in the borough. I took the time to drive around, although I knew where they were. I wanted to make sure that they were all there. And it's not like we don't have any affordable housing or low income housing in the borough. We do have 7 developments. The fact that building a affordable housing on this lot just doesn't fit the profile of downtown. But I applaud your try at doing it. I was talking to a lawyer the other day about you. And I asked him, I said, do you know Ryan Bailey's a great guy? But the thought came to my mind, a guy named Peter Minuet. He sailed into New York Harbor in 1626 and bought Manhattan for $24. You're standing in front of us and asking us to give you a lot for free.
That's not true.
That was your original proposal. What you wanted us to do is donate or gift. And that was a non-starter for me.
I agree.
I do need more than $24, for the lot. Mr. Metrick's going to have it appraised just so we know what the lot is really worth. In 2013, I believe the lot was appraised at $2 million. I'm sure it's worth a lot more than that today. But as far as working with your team, full disclosure, Penrose Management was one of my largest accounts when I was working. They're an excellent company. They bought a lot of paint from Sherwin-Williams Paint Company, and they pay their bills on time. So I'm very happy with Penrose. Unfortunately, the wrong place, the wrong time, and the wrong year, maybe sooner down the road.
Thank you. Appreciate you bringing this, if nothing else, the awareness of the need for affordable, attainable housing. I know that there's a county initiative and there's folks that are in the audience. I see one right here for attainable, affordable housing. I think this process needs to be a bigger process that doesn't come to us in a month for a decision. I'd like to hear some other ideas about attainable and affordable housing, not from just you or from others, but what we can do as a community, and agreeing with others. I just don't think this is the right time, site for this project, but we'd like to see other ideas. Thank you.
Agreed. I appreciate the opportunity to come forth. And I agree that it is an important endeavor. I completely agree that it is a tight time frame. We still wanted to bring it up as an opportunity for the borough. We'll take these things back and try to make a better proposal. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to say thank you for a well thought out plan. Thank you for a well thought out idea. The turnaround time is quick. I guess it was too quick, but your intention was good, even though, it meant disturbing the beloved growers market. So that wasn't good because that needs to be where it is. But I think it is important that this community takes a stand for affordable housing. And I think if you miss the part about affordable and sustainable housing affects us all, affects a good part of us all. Maybe it doesn't affect the 1% living in the $1 million homes in Westchester, but it does affect the firefighters. It does affect the teachers. It does affect even the heads of the borough here that can't afford to live in Westchester. It does affect those hardworking white and blue collar people who go to work every day and make a living and don't want to pay 48% towards rent. So if they have the opportunity to pay 30%, that's one of the reasons why our restaurants are closed on Mondays and some on Tuesdays. They don't have staffing. There are so many places here don't have staffing because we don't have places that people can live. And I think that we need to keep in front of us the concept that affordable, sustainable, and workplace housing is needed in this rarefied town that has an abundance of excess. And maybe we have too many people, and maybe parking is an issue, but it's because people need to work and people like to live in Westchester. And the last 3 buildings that have come before us, Mr. Flynn, are not affordable housing. The rents on those are going to be in the 3,000 mark, from 2,500, 3,000 and above. And so for you to draw the line and say, well, those are all okay, but affordable housing we just don't need, I take exception to. I take exception to the fact that we need our working people to live in nice places. Mary Taylor House is a beautiful place. So if you drove around and you're looking at, and you're saying we have low income, well, Mary Taylor House is one of them. Denny Rayburn is one of them, but these are both senior citizens places. Pinckney Hill is one of them, but that was a private initiative that had to be taken by a private company. And it's okay when private people do it, but the borough needs to buy in to the county, and the county needs to buy into the fact that we really do need affordable housing. And I really hope the reason why you are all here is not against affordable housing, but I hope you're here for the growers market, because the growers market is an important treasure to this town. But please don't walk out here thinking that to be for the growers market, you have to be against affordable housing. So be a part of the solution. I would ask that each of you be a part of the solution so that we can change the trajectory of this town, so that we can bring affordable housing into it. And so that people who holler out comments like a pop-up slum need to be ashamed of themselves.
All right, we're public comment. Just a reminder, 2 minutes each, please, if you would. State your name and address.
Walshley 18 West Minor Street, speaking as an individual. I'm not here to speak on the plan. Everybody, well, a noble idea is affordable and attainable housing. And I want to thank Penrose for making that great presentation. A couple of the council members mentioned the location. And basically, I'm going to speak to how we get to where we are today. It's the borough's 225th anniversary, and if you examine what planners have said, we are a 19th century walking town, a historic walking town. What that means is there's a center core, and the people developed in their neighborhoods around that core, and they walk to the center of town. And they built around the Turk's Head and the courthouse. and so on. How did Lot 10 get created? Back in the 1960s, there came a thing called shopping centers, and the borough was concerned. They bought the meeting house, the Serpentine Meeting House. They held a non-binding election. Everybody voted to save it. The majority did, but council tore it down, and that didn't stop shopping center growth. The downtown took a big hit and had to reinvent itself and come up with what we have today, that great mix of restaurants and shops, and we can still do more improvement in that particular area. Along the way, to get to where we are today, we developed a HARB, we developed a BID, the Downtown Westchester, and more recently, the Historical Commission to help out as needed. And of course, all of them work along with the Greater Westchester Chamber of Commerce. In conclusion, I'd like to tell you something. We have an epidemic that I don't know, I've given it a name, and I don't know whether you're aware of it. It's called PSD. We have PSD. Here's what it is. People, strollers, dogs. Look around. During the week, you'll see people, strollers, dogs. It'll pick up in the evening, and it really reaches a high point over the weekend. And we need to press that and be aware of that a little more. It's a key. And these people come to the downtown and then return to their homes in the neighborhood. So we want you to keep in mind as you weigh this issue now or even in the future, we need to take our time because this location is in the core and you can't eat away at the core, downtown core. You have to be very careful about how you do that. So in closing, I think it's important that we not destroy the core element. Let us have PSD continuing. Let us have the farmers market continue. And let's give some consideration to Westchester Railroad as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Terry McClure, 302 West Marshall Street. I was at the Smart Growth meeting this last week, and I have to tell you, I was completely shocked. Initially, as some of you probably saw my face. You all stole my thunder with the timing, because that was my biggest issue, was coming to council with no education to you guys, to the public, to allow us to become educated and make a thoughtful decision. And that was really one of my biggest issues with that. So you stole my thunder with a lot of stuff, a lot of public money. I would like to know what Penrose is putting in from their capital perspective, or is it all coming from different ways of other taxpayer money? We, the borough, own this lot. And by extension, that means that we, the taxpayers, own this lot. So I think it's only fair that everybody have a good knowledge of what's going on. And I'm great to see all of this community participation. So I just have a couple questions because you kind of blew all my research out of the water. They did say at one point, it won't cost the borough any money, quote unquote. It always costs the borough money. No matter what, it always costs the borough money. There'll be something that comes down the pike that we're going to have to pay for. And I think that having extra time is very prudent. And then does this property have to go out for bid? Or can we just, I don't know. I looked up the borough code. I know that for lots of things, it does have to go out to bid. And the one thing that I did read was nonprofit corporations can be an exception. I couldn't find anywhere that Penrose was that. So that's just a question I'm throwing out there. I'm not a lawyer. I read it. It made my eyes glaze over. So I just want to thank all of you for your time, all of the people that came here tonight. I appreciate everything that everybody's had to say. And I do agree with Lillian too, that affordable housing is a critical issue here. We're very lucky that people want to come to the borough. That's a blessed thing to have. And I personally am very grateful. I've been here for 42 years now. So Mr. Bailey graduated in 97. I graduate in 75. So, and my husband graduated in 70. So we're all people around here. But I think it's something that we need to be a lot more thoughtful than coming to smart growth and then saying, hey, can we have this kind of short-term non-binding agreement? Because once you start those wheels going, it's very hard to pull back and put the brakes on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, we have a long line. If everyone mind keeping it to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Juliana Pash. I don't live in the borough. I live in West Goshen Township in the North Hill neighborhood. I'm here tonight as a longtime supporter of regional food and farmers markets, not just here in Westchester, but in other areas where we have lived. It's kind of a running joke in my family whenever we've been traveling and there's a farmer's market. Oh, look, there's a farmer's market. And we have to pull over and we've got to go to the market. I've been involved with farmers markets in Downingtown and before that, the Seattle area as a volunteer and a market manager. I am the current market manager of the Westchester Growers Market, but have supported the market and others in Chester County since we have moved back to the area 10 years ago. Markets aren't just a fun place for families to visit for fresh food, but they are a livelihood for every vendor that sets up each week. The Westchester Growers Market is a huge benefit to this community because of its unwavering support of producer-only goods. Not only does it provide fresh, seasonal, local food, the growers and producers educate the public about the importance of eating locally grown and produced goods. Each week, about 1,500 to 2,000 people come through the market, supporting not only those vendors, but having additional impact in our community. I understand the critical need for affordable housing. This isn't a unique issue for Westchester, but throughout the country. The presentation that developers have made, it seems that this is a perfect fit for this need, and specifically at the location of Church and Chestnut. I will admit, I watched their YouTube presentation. There was not one mention last week about the growers market. So just putting that out there. Funny though, they never took time to visit the parking lot on a market day when it is bustling with people. The market warranted just one line in their presentation of how it might be relocated. They don't understand that a market allows all income levels to have access to fresh food on a regular basis. With no grocery store in the borough, this is the one location, a store of sorts, that provides the option for many individuals. Moving the market is not something to be taken lightly either, as there are significant logistics to this weekly event to fit 30+ vendors with a waiting list in the space we rent from the borough. I hope that you'll consider the importance of this market as a valuable asset. It provides a community gathering place for people of all and its support of the food network in our region.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ray Ott. I'm at 427 West Union Street, and I'm not here to particularly endorse this project, but I am here to say that I'm part of a group called the Westchester Area Attainable Housing Council, and we have about 15 members of the council representing different employers in the borough, representing the university, representing the hospital, and we're working very hard to try and come up with ways to improve access to affordable and attainable housing. And most recently, we were in the West Goshen Borough, or West Goshen Township, excuse me, and they're in the process of rewriting their zoning ordinance, and we were really pleasantly, I won't say surprised, we were very happy that we were very well received in West Goshen Township, and they want us to work with them in rewriting their zoning to try and accommodate affordable housing. Next week, I'm meeting with the Planning Commission here in Westchester, and we've met with a task force from the Planning Commission about developing an ordinance that we're calling inclusionary housing to enable the development of housing, inclusionary housing throughout the borough. So I just want to say that we're here, we're an organization, we welcome other people that want to participate, and we're also here to help if you want to reach out to us to help in trying to figure out a good site to have this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michael Gailey. I'm Ray Ott's least esteemed neighbor. I think you guys are all doing a great job tonight handling this very difficult issue, and I really appreciate that. It sounds like there's broad consensus that it's a good idea, bad time, bad location. as you move forward in considering these projects in the future, especially if we're going to use borough resources, I think it would be helpful to do a number of things, including have a better understanding of what that inventory is of our existing affordable housing, how our affordable housing compares to similar communities. I think it would be useful to know what mixed use opportunities we have using our land development plans or our land development ordinances to encourage developers to include or require them if we can to have mixed use properties so that we can encourage that every time a development is made in the borough. And I also think that we should consider the fact that we have this proposal from a for-profit corporation and whether or not that makes sense if we're going to do something like this going forward. But thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Berger, resident at Mary Taylor House on North Walnut Street. And Mary Taylor House is low-income housing, affordable housing for seniors. I'm a senior, obviously. I'm all for low-income housing in Westchester. I'm not for Penrose Management, who manages Mary Taylor House. The managers, the direct managers that we've had there have been very good. However, Penrose Management does not pay their employees well. They don't answer well to the concerns and complaints of the residents. And that's why I would like to have other management companies or owners be considered for having low-income housing in the borough.
Thank you.
My name is Dawn Douglas Marion. I'm a transplant from Florida.
You said it so fast. I write down everyone's name.
Dawn Douglas Marion. I live at Church Street Towers, a person with a disability in subsidized housing. I have applied for Picnic Commons. I stood in line with the people that were applying for Picnic Commons. There were many people that didn't live in this community or work in this community that were in the line with me. I was hoping to transfer my living quarters to Picnic Commons. I live at Church Street Towers. I've moved in the building itself. I know there are vacancies in my building that are unrehabbed yet. I know they've changed management in our subsidized housing units. They're working on rehabbing, they're hiring people, all this other business. But I know that there's at least 14 or 15 units in my building alone of disability housing that have not been filled. And so they have over 100 people on the waiting list. I understand that the waiting list needs to be purged. I listen to the board meetings that are open to people to listen to via Zoom once a month on a Tuesday. I think it's the third Tuesday of the month. People can go and listen. My primary concern as a resident is I used to take care of the gardens in the front, but then I had COVID and both of my knees had to be operated on. And so I can't take care of the gardens anymore. And they haven't picked up the slack. The residents can't do it. They're handicapped. So I've written a letter to management. I don't know what else to do. I've asked them to get the green team involved. I've asked them to get consultations. I've even approached the mayor's office. I spoke to your secretary, ma'am, about potentially getting a community service project done to get this brought up to snuff, the property, the outside, because it's embarrassing. I used to be a homeowner. I was married. I have a child. I understand the perspective of the other residents in the community, the homeowners per se. It's an eyesore, I think, in my opinion. The garden looks awful. The lawn is full of weeds, and it's a presentation to the community. I'm hoping that someday someone will get it together enough to fix up just the front lawn. And I hate to see what would happen across the street if the same thing happened there. There's also a burnt out building on the other side of that parking lot that somebody owns. And I don't know if there's anybody looking at that. I saw it burn. It's vacant. People were on the Nextdoor app asking for help that live there. And they're right adjacent to the farmer's market, behind Uptown. So, I mean, there's other properties in town that could be purchased and built on, knocked down, rebuilt, whatever. But nobody's looking at that. They're just taking away that one parking lot, which is very valuable to even me when there's not enough parking in our parking lot. Overflow. So I wanted to say that and just have my piece. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Erin Clemens, 325 St. James Road. And before I begin, I'd like to make it known that I have a friend who could not be here tonight who agrees with what I have to say as well. But I have lived in Westchester for most of my life and attended the growers market as well. I love the produce from the growers market. However, I have also struggled with housing. I have crashed on neighbors' couches and been in uncertain situations because I was so desperate to continue living in Westchester. I'm planning to move next year, out of state, not because I don't love this area, but because I can't afford it anymore. I'm going to be forced to move unless I can get affordable housing. I'm on the autism spectrum, so I am waiting for Section 811. But I would feel so guilty to have a home located in a spot which uproots so many people. I'm so disappointed in this proposal because it just adds to the stigma that makes people believe that affordable housing is a burden to the community and nobody wants it. But even the Westchester Growers Market wants it. They said so right in their post on social media. What they don't want is to have a whole bunch of businesses erased in the process. I want an affordable place to live so that I don't have to move. I've been on the wait list for 2 years, but I don't want to prove to people that the stigmas about affordable housing are in any way true. Please find a way to build affordable housing without taking away the growers market and stop adding to the stigma of people who are desperate for affordable housing like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. My name is Rebecca. You heard me briefly about the Airbnb. I just want to thank you all for being really thoughtful and conscientious listeners. I can tell. I watch you guys listen to us talk, and I really appreciate that you are listening. And that makes all the difference, being in a community that does that. As I said, my name is Rebecca, and I have the incredible job of cleaning houses and making things clean so they're magical. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you about, is magic and how much magic exists in the growers market. It's life-giving. There are people who are taking things from the ground, from the soil, from nutrients, and giving it to people to transport all throughout town. And they're taking it and they're feeding their families and they're nourishing people. And that's life-giving, right? It's like having the sun on your face on a cold day. It's life-giving. And that's kind of what the American dream is pursuing that feeling of the sun hitting your face. And I always feel that feeling when I'm at the growers market. When I go and I look people in the eye and I see what they made and I get to take it home with me and use it, there's nothing like that. That's something that you can't replicate. And as you guys were saying before with affordable housing, not with affordable housing, but with the short-term rentals, I think all the reasons why you're iffy about the short-term rentals are applicable here. They're applicable in creating housing right in the heart of Westchester. And I think it's your job as council members. I don't know much about the government, but I think it's your job to protect the heart of the town. And I think, I really respect what Ryan Bailey's doing, because he is trying to create affordable housing. And he's kind of like George Bailey in The Wonderful Life, I don't know if anyone knows the movie, but it seems like that's his mission and that's his pursuit. And that's great. We super support that. But, there's abandoned lots on 202. I see all these abandoned homes on 202 that could easily turn into apartment complexes that exist right outside of town. And we can work with SEPTA to provide transportation from those places into town. That's an option. But I think we should really look at preserving the magic of Westchester, which is charming. it's conscientious, it's kind. And do we think that the growers market does that better than someone like Ryan Bailey's company, a huge conglomerate that is profit driven? Thank you.
I'm Lorraine Lucas at 312 Price Street, and I'm born and raised in Westchester. In fact, my father was the last Burgess first mayor of Westchester, which is why his picture is on the back wall with his borough council. Since I have lived here all my life, for the most part, I've watched our wonderful historic county seat and 1.8 square miles, which I want to emphasize, borough grow, while to the best of its ability, preserve and expand its significance as a historic area and healthy community for its residents and visitors. I'm not against affordable housing at all. I don't know how many businesses are in the borough that need the affordable housing for them to be close by. What I'm here just to state is just the statistics. You are just looking at a 1.8 square mile borough. There's so much you can do in a 1.8 square mile borough. And what was said earlier, and when they compare to Phoenixville or they compare to Chester County, I just want to state that Westchester Borough is half the size of Phoenixville. The density per square mile of Westchester Borough is 10,000 people. The density per square mile of that same Phoenixville that has area for more affordable housing, I'm just talking statistics, is 5,200. Westchester Borough is the third most densely populated per square mile municipality in the entire state of Pennsylvania of over 2,500 municipalities. It's third to Philadelphia and Upper Darby. There's only so much you can do while maintaining the accolades and the attention that we want Borough to have, which absolutely invite visitors. Not saying send anybody away or whatever, but the statistics are how much can you do? Maybe renovate, like they talked about the other buildings or whatever, make them maybe larger and renovated and more units. You have 200 units, I guess, going in at Rubenstein's. You know, utilize what's there and enhance it perhaps. But the other statistic is over 2/3 of the borough is already rentals. There's less than 1/3 that's owner occupied. I was in this room years ago when State College said, Westchester, don't let happen to you, it's happened to us. Partly because 80% or 60% of the college either commute or live elsewhere. I don't know how much of that lives in the borough. Part of it was for that. But this is additionally, we have 600 new apartment units going in over the last year, possibly. So that's shrinking further and further. Your 2016 comprehensive plan addressed that the owner occupied rate should be increased. And I don't know, I was actually told by a couple people on various committees that, oh, we don't look at the comprehensive plan. That's long-term. Well, it is long-term. So again, I'm not against it, but you got to look, you really are still 1.8 square miles. And we're already, again, the third most densely populated. Also, out of those 2,500 municipalities, we're the 111th highest population in totality. Little 1.8 square mile borough or Westchester Borough. So we don't want to destroy what we have and all the accolades that we have. It means nothing about not having affordable housing or anything like that, but there must be other alternatives. And the other thing is that you need to look at the comparison when you look at, well, Phoenixville and whatever. It's like, again, they're twice the size and half the population as Westchester. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's John Daly, 732 Marshall Drive. Mayor DeBaptiste, I'm the one who said pop-up slum. Let me explain why. Okay, it's not against affordable housing, as everyone has said. Affordable housing is needed. Okay, the affordable housing we have seems like it could be run better, as people have attested to. What I said was against Penrose, which is a nationwide, not local, just come in here, do their hit, build their building, they're on to the next victim. And I see no reason to trust them. They have, they have no real connection with this borough. So don't misunderstand me. This is a wonderful, diverse community. It always has been. The growers market is one of the jewels in the crown of this borough. And, it provides it gives a livelihood to some of the few remaining farmers in this county. And that's another thing. This is a beautiful, beautiful place. I've lived other places. This place is is wonderful, but it's getting built to death. So, and we all see it. Everyone sees how the county is degrading. Everyone sees all the ugly apartments going up in Exton and King of Prussia, which is not in Chester County. We're getting built to death. A lot of them are 55 plus. The baby boomer generation is going to age out of the earth, to put it bluntly. And what's going to happen to all those 55 plus units? Why not make them affordable housing? It doesn't solve the immediate problem. The lady who is here, it's not going to solve her problem. She wants to stay in Westchester. We want to keep her in Westchester. But there's going to be a glut of pre-built 55 plus places that aren't going to have that many 55 plus people to move into them. All right, just something to think about.
Hi, Janet Voken. I live in West Goshen on Laurel Drive. I want to live in a healthy community. And I was a health teacher for a long time, and I want to support local farmers. I'd rather eat produce that's coming from Chester County instead of coming from Chile. So I want my community to be healthy. And for the number of people that come to the growers market and can have their health improve, it's just such a treasure. I support the theater, I support the co-op, I support the library. We have wonderful things here, but it's up to you to try to support these. It's a treasure that I don't want to get my fresh vegetables in a parking lot that's in a building underground with car fumes. I want to get them in the fresh air. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Joyce Chester. I live in the borough. I've lived in Westchester about 30 years now. And as you have said, Mayor, the farmers market, the growers market is a gem in our community. I've been there plenty of times myself. I adore having that open space to shop, to meet friends, and so on. I now work with affordable housing. And I know the dilemma of making sure that people can live near the place where they work. My one concern we have not talked about are the children that are impacted when their parents don't have affordable housing, and how transient some of our children, even in Westchester, are. We have 218 homeless children in our district, in the Westchester Area School District. So I'm just wondering if we isolated the growers market from the issue of affordable housing and kept them as two separate entities, would there be as much resistance against affordable housing? I am all for affordable housing. I think it helps us to make our entire community a safe and healthy community when we regard those that may have less than. So thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. And I look forward to working with the borough and the county on affordable housing initiatives. And I still like the growers market. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is CJ Frederick. I live at 22 Dean Street here in the borough. It seems quite interesting to me that what was identified tonight was a very important topic, affordable housing. In its extreme, it leads to the kind of homelessness crisis that we have in this country. On the other hand, as evidenced by a lot of the testimony, the site chosen is a very sensitive one, and one that we should be equally concerned about, perhaps, in our own locality. And then, as Mr. Bailey, I think, correctly identified, there's like 6 weeks, possibly, to make a decision about things that the two opposing sides, so to speak, think are important. And I don't think the borough should be tolerant of, and not that Penrose is necessarily doing it. I don't know the evolution of how and when they got started, but in essence, you got a gun to your head, so to speak, to make a very important decision in 6 weeks. You know, the old axiom is timing is everything in life. And I would think that really what the borough should do is take this evening and this topic and what you're witnessing as a wake-up call and realize that we don't just have an affordable housing crisis in Westchester. We don't just have an attainable housing crisis in Westchester. We have a housing crisis in Westchester. And when you have a president of the university bragging to you at the beginning of every year about how this is now the greatest number of incoming students that we've had in recent time, all you got to do is start to think about what that means. They don't always stay in dorms. And they go out into the community, and you run into the classic problem of demand and supply. And I heard Ms. Simone speak about regulation, and I couldn't, and I think you did too, Brian. I couldn't agree with you more. Regulation is just the starting point, but it's useless without enforcement. And if you think about what has happened in the borough with the condition of student housing over time, and you realized how many units are out there that are student housing that, like the Airbnb issue that you discussed, you know nothing about, you start to realize why you have an affordable housing crisis. Supply, demand, rents in Westchester are very high. You had a very emotional plea in that regard just a few people ago. So my recommendation is that, again, I'll use the term, take this as a wake-up call, maybe fund a comprehensive housing study and figure out how you should want to have this happen in the borough. Maybe Penrose wants to participate in the funding of such a study. But that's what's needed. That's what I heard tonight. And I thank you for letting me
Appreciate
say
your
that.
comments.
I'm going to make this really quick. Holly Brown, 37 West Gay Street. I just want you to know that I was on council and president of council when the RFP went out for the parking lot 10. That happened because it was during the recession and we had very little money coming in. Transfer taxes weren't happening, income taxes were down. So we were looking for a way to make money. And when we put an RFP out, which by the way is what you would have to do anyway. You can't give this lot away without doing RFP because again, you're not giving it to a nonprofit. So in that sense, you're going to be out their timeline anyway, probably. So kind of puts that to bed. But the one thing I want to point out is that a lot of statistics that he used were county statistics that he wanted to apply to the borough of Westchester. That's not really fair to do. And so what I would suggest is this conversation is not a borough conversation, it's a borough and county conversation. And I would sit down with them and say, we have a housing problem in the county, not just in the borough. And we are, years ago in the 70s, they changed all the ordinances to try to increase density. Now, when I was in council, density was increasing. And so we went back and changed some of the ordinances to make requirements for more parking because they had taken some of the parking requirements away. So as everyone says, this is evolving over years, which I've been involved in for like 30 years now in the borough. But affordable housing is important. It's everywhere. We actually are very lucky that we have a wealthy county and we have better organizations and places to take care of people that have problems in this county than a lot of places have. And I know because I had someone in my family that I had to deal with to try to work with some issues like that. But again, it's a county issue with the borough. And to use those statistics and then try to make us feel guilty because we have to conform to these problems is not fair. We have 1.8 square miles. We have to sit down and talk to the county and work with them with all this funding to find places in the county, not just in Westchester for affordable housing. I'd be happy to help with it, so.
Thank you. Okay, I think we can move on. Item 15. We have a few HARB submission recommendations. Correct.
Yeah.
was consider, and we're not considering it.
We're not considering it.
So, Mr. Metric, I think it's consider. So I don't know if we want to put it on consent agenda, or is there more topic?
For us to vote no, I
Discussion
mean,
tomorrow.
keep saying, like, yeah, how do we do this?
I don't think we did.
I say I'm not considering it, so.
I
Are
don't
we in
think
agreement?
I don't think it's something that we
I don't think it would
table
pass.
due to the fact that it needs to be decided upon, right? So I think it needs a vote that we're not going to put it on consent for closure of this item. But with that being said, it should be something that we look at in the future at smart growth committees and whatnot moving forward. No, but
Yeah, how does the process work? Like, what are our options? I think we can vote now as opposed to.
You could take a vote now to not move forward with this item.
I will make a motion to not move forward with this
I,
item.
I don't think you can. I think it has.
I
it
make
can't
a
be the
motion that
president.
we don't
There,
move
thank you.
forward with this item.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Call the question?
Ms. Dorsey,
No.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mr. Vaccaro is absent. Mr. McGinnis,
yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Shimoni, Ms. Shimoni, and Mr. McCoy. My bad.
Yes.
But I do agree with what everybody was saying, that yes, get it on the smart growth, start looking at it a little bit more seriously and see if we can find a spot.
Which is why I said we should table it, right? It's not something we're going to vote on tomorrow or tonight, but it is something we want to consider in the future.
Yeah, I mean, right, yeah.
Okay, moving on to item 15, approved March 2024 HARB submission recommendation. Who would like to take this?
All right, well, yeah. Just a list of adjustments that HARB recommended, and since they recommended them, we were not against them, and so the committee's recommending to go forward with those two.
Comments, questions? Okay, we can put that on consent.
And Mr. President, too, we do have an additional application for certificate of appropriateness that was made for a dining platform out of 16 East Gay Street. It was a little unorthodox when it came up on February 29th. We talked about it in March Smart Growth Committee. I'd like to put it on tomorrow's discussion agenda for council to consider for approval.
Okay.
Did we find out who's asking for it, like what company?
It's the property owner. Yeah, we'll have more details for everyone tomorrow, but I'd just like to get that in front of everyone so that we can move forward with that application.
Okay. Okay, so we have consent for HARB submissions. Number 16, motion to approve 2024 Gay Street open market rules and regulations.
The regulations that were provided to us are the same as what we've used in prior years. It's just we need to approve them again for this year. I don't think there were any changes to anything from prior year.
Questions, comments? Move to consent. Finance and Revenue Committee, number 17, approve the following purchasing approvals.
Yes, these were recommended 3-0. One of them, so you have item one, $12,540 to USA LCO. I believe that these items 1 and 3, well, item 2, let's go item 2, Miller Brothers, that, I believe that was a follow-up from a contract from 2023, final payment. And item 3, $13,155.25 to Univar. I believe that had to do with sewer. Correct? Okay. So those were unanimous, 3-0.
Comments, questions? Okay, move to consent. Number 18, approve sale of police vehicle.
Yes, Chief Lee approached Borough Council. This was a sale of an undercover police vehicle. That's all we can state. We approve that unanimously.
Comments or questions? All right, move that to consent. Number 19, appoint the following delegates to the Chester County Tax Collection Committee.
So that's something that's standard that we've done. Mr. Metrick would be the primary voting delegate. Barb Leonti would be the first alternate. And I, Brian McGinnis, would be the second voting delegate.
Take a 3-0 recommendation. Any comments or questions? Move that to consent. Other business. Approve the March 19 and 20 Borough Council meeting minutes. Comments, questions? Okay. Move to consent. And finally, 20B, discuss Public Works fleet repairs.
Summarize, this is a purchase order for $14,000 for the repair of a hydraulic system on one of our tractors. Really no reasonable way to do this. Still remain in compliance with our detail. Get this approved, and also if some issues of low our bidding limit is and how practical it is at sometimes for unusual expenditures like this.
Okay, that'll be on discussion for tomorrow. Other business?
Yes, Keith Karowski, Director of the Parks and Rec Department. I couldn't get this on the agenda because it came in late Friday afternoon, but we received a special event application from the bid to bring the Budweiser Clydesdales to the Borough of Westchester on Thursday, May 23rd. That falls within the 60-day out window that is required, so it would require Borough Council approval to review the permit. I've already spoken to Sergeant Malicki, who handles these events from the police department. He has assured me that they are fully capable of doing this. We brought the Clydesdales to the Borough of Westchester for 5 consecutive years. I believe it's 2012 to 2016. Give you a brief, quick overview. They'd stage out back. We'd clear out the parking lot. They'd stage out back. We'd take the Clydesdales out, what is this? Adams Street here, up Gay Street, all the way down to Darlington, Darlington over to Market, Market back down to Adams again, and then over here. All the main parking of the vehicles, their tractor trailers, their semis would be staged out back. So we clear out the parking lot. We've done it before. We're certainly capable of doing it again. He has to look over exactly what those figures would be from the police department, but he wanted me to assure council that we are certainly prepared and able to take care of it. I'm bringing it before your attention for approval.
Do you have all the applications
We have
filled
the
out?
application submitted. We have the application submitted.
Can you send that around to everyone?
I certainly can, and it wouldn't
Have it
require
tomorrow's agenda?
Absolutely, sir. It wouldn't require any other departments overtime because they're not needed. This would be a caravan type parade through the borough, led by police, followed by police, partially blocking streets along the way, but this cross streets would be open as this caravan moves through town. So we wouldn't need public works. We wouldn't need parking for no parking. Like I said, we've done it before. I will get this information on the, I didn't want to include it on the agenda and mess up the agenda per Friday, so I wanted to bring it here to you tonight.
Okay, thanks. Anyone have any questions in the meantime?
Thank you.
Just real quick, John O'Brien, Executive Director, Westchester. We're downtown Westchester. Since I'm the applicant, but due to childcare, I will not be able to attend tomorrow. I can reach out to you via email if you have any questions, since I am the applicant on this. But obviously, we don't really have a lot of control because the Clydesdales are kind of in the area for a Phillies event. So we don't really have the ability to kind of bring them in solo. So they kind of somewhat dictate the day that they have available to us, and we just kind of jump on that. But you all have my contact information if there's additional questions. Apologize, I can't make it tomorrow, but I'm available to anybody that needs me. Thank you.
Thank you.
What date was that again?
It'll be Thursday, May 23rd. So they'll set up from 4 to 5 here, and then 5 to 6, as Keith said, we'll go up Gay Street. They stop at a couple restaurants, drop off a case. There's a PR photo. It's a roving closure. And then they'll loop around to New Street and then come down Market to Adams and back to Borough Hall.
Yeah.
Last time, I think it was estimated we attracted about 30,000 people. That's the number I heard. This was before my time as executive director, but it is a huge draw for the town, for the residents, and for our businesses.
I was there a couple of times and it was always a wonderful event.
And just one quick caveat, just so the town's aware and everybody's aware, these horses are extremely expensive and very well insured. If there is weather, any kind of weather, they will put them right back in the trailer. That's just the unfortunate risk we have to take. So there is an eventuality where this can happen. So just pray for sunshine. But they dictate that, and they will not bring them out if it is raining at all. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So while we're praying for sunshine, let's pray for sunshine for this coming Sunday,
Yes.
April 21st, 1 o'clock. We want to see all of y'all at the Westchester 225th anniversary parade. Okay? It's all right? It's all right.
All right. Thank you. At 9:02, we are adjourned.